Hello, my name is Andrea, and this is Starlight Stories for Magical Children. Here you will find a collection of stories that were told to me from storytellers from magical realms, the animal kingdom, and nature. I am delighted to share these stories with you, and maybe as you listen, you'll find that life really is magical, and so are you. Our storyteller today is one that we've had before. The very first story he shared was the Fawn and the Fairy. And if you're new here, it might be important for you to know that in that story, he met a fairy who promised him adventures when he was just a little bit older. And guess what? He's back. Except he's not a fawn anymore. He's a young buck. And the stories he's going to share with you are about his adventures with this fairy. But there's something even more special here. These adventures he had with the fairy all took place on the days before the summer solstice. And the way he wanted to share these stories with you is the same way that he experienced the adventures. So over the next 3 days leading up to the summer solstice, he will share 4 stories with you of his adventures with the fairy. So let's begin. 2 summers had passed, and the buck was staring at his reflection in a river, admiring the 4 points on top of his antlers. They were still fuzzy and not quite grown to their full size or pointiness, but it was clear that there were 4. And this was an important milestone for Bo. For when he was just a fawn, he had an unexpected meeting with a fairy who instructed him to return to the river. There was a promise of adventure, but only when he had 4 points on his antlers. Here he was at that same river with 4 points on his antlers. He was waiting with anticipation. But then he realized he didn't know what to do next. He began to search his memory, trying to uncover any hint of what he was supposed to do once he got to the river. Was he supposed to signal to the fairy in some way? Call out? Splash around? But nothing came to mind. I suppose I'll just wait, he thought to himself. He didn't have to wait long. He lowered his head to drink from the river, and just then the fairy appeared in the same way as before. She landed right on his nose. "You've returned," she said. Bo startled. He had forgotten, until that moment, exactly how the fairy had appeared to him the first time. He stumbled a bit, almost losing his balance. The fairy laughed. "Welcome back, dear friend. Are you ready for our adventures to begin?" Bo found himself feeling a little bit shy. It usually took spending time with someone before he felt comfortable. But as he stood there with her, he did feel there was something familiar about her, and he felt the shyness start to fade. He stepped towards her. "I have been waiting for this day ever since you found me when I was just a fawn. I would be honored to adventure with you. But first, what is your name?" "My name is Cynthia," she replied, "but everyone calls me Thea. What is your name, young buck?" "My name is Bo," he told her. "And everyone just calls me Bo," Thea giggled. Up until this point, Bo had considered his whole life to be an adventure. This was now his third spring, watching everything come to life around him. He had spent 2 winters in the harsh cold with little to eat. What does it mean to have an adventure with a fairy? He thought to himself. Almost like Thea could read his mind, she spoke. In order for our adventure to begin, you will need to join me in the fairy realm. And to get there, all you need to do is follow me. Keep your gaze fixed on me the entire time. Do not let your gaze wander. Without any further explanation, Thea positioned herself over the river's edge, just beyond the shore. Then she turned and began flying upstream against the river's current. Bo stepped carefully into the water, which thankfully only came up past his ankles, and began following behind. He could feel the strength of the water push against him, and even though the water was shallow and the current was gentle, he still had to move with effort and intention, step after step after step, keeping his eyes fixed on Thea. It took every ounce of concentration to not look down to see what he was about to step on, or to look to his side to see what was casting a shadow. He kept staring straight ahead. As he stared forward, he had the sense that the environment was changing around him. He could still feel the water around his feet. He could still feel the warmth of the sun. But there was a growing vibrancy to the colors. He could smell something sweet. It reminded him of a ripened strawberry. The light around him seemed to dim just slightly, which somehow allowed the vibrant colors to appear even more vibrant. And lastly, he heard the sound of soft music off in the distance. He picked up on these gradual changes, all while following Thea's instructions. Keep your gaze fixed on me. He didn't know how much longer he could keep going like this. Every ounce of his being wanted to turn his head and take in his surroundings. But thankfully, just when it was beginning to feel impossible to keep staring at Thea, she turned around and faced him. Welcome to the fairy realm. Please have a look around. Bo blinked his eyes and turned in a slow circle, taking in everything around him. It's so magical. He could find no better word to describe it. I wish I could give you more time to explore, but I'm afraid that we must continue on a bit further, for our first adventure must begin tonight, Thea said. Bo hadn't expected that there would be a sense of urgency, but he could tell that Thea was serious. He decided to follow her lead deeper into the fairy realm. As he looked ahead, he spotted firelight and heard what seemed to be faint music. Is that where we are going? He asked Thea. Yes, she said. Tonight you will be joining the Council of Fairies. As they moved closer to the fire, he could hear the fairies chatter amongst themselves, and the sound of music grew louder. But as soon as he was spotted following Thea, the music stopped, and all the fairies grew silent. Thea walked Bo into the center of the council meeting. We have arrived, she announced. At once the music started up again, and all the fairies began clapping and dancing around. "They are celebrating your arrival," Thea whispered to Bo. Bo looked around him and couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder rise up inside. This was all just so incredible and almost unbelievable. After the song ended, the fairies grew quiet again. Thea spoke. "This is Bo, the young buck who will accompany me on my adventures. Thank you for welcoming Bo to the Council of Fairies. Now, would one of you be so kind as to explain to Bo why he is here?" An elder fairy with silver strands of hair stood up. "Young buck, we have brought you here for a most important reason. You see, the barrier between the fairy realm and the human realm is fading. That is why you were able to join us here tonight. In order to strengthen the barrier and keep our realm hidden from the humans, we need you to adventure with Thea to find 3 magical objects. Once you find them, you will bring them to this altar here." She turned and pointed behind her to a beautiful shimmery marble pedestal. The elder fairy continued. "Now, these objects can only be found during certain times of day. The first one you must find will be a glowing crystal found in a small pond guarded by the Frog King. It can only be seen right in the minute before midnight. The second object is a flower. This flower's petals open only when the sun is at its highest point in the sky. You must pick the flower when the petals are open. If you do not pick this flower within 1 minute, its petals will close until the next day. The third object is at the tide pool. You will need to find a rainbow shell, the shape of a perfect spiral. There is a magical pool where most of the day the water is high, but there is a window of time, the hour before the sun sets, where the water pulls back to reveal a bed of shells. But only one is the rainbow spiral shell. Once we have all 3 of these objects on the altar, positioned in the shape of a triangle, the barrier will be strengthened and the fairy realm will remain hidden." "May I ask a question?" Bo interrupted. "If the barrier is strong, then how will I get back to my realm?" Thea spoke this time. "There is one day a year in which a non-fairy can travel to the fairy realm, and that is the summer solstice. There is a fairy ring here, and if you are standing inside when the sun casts its light over it, you will find yourself back in the realm from which you came from." "So," Bo spoke slowly, "will I have time to get to the fairy ring once I find the rainbow shell?" "It's the last rays of light that are cast into the fairy ring. You have until right before sunset to find the shell and return it to the altar." "And what happens if I don't find it in time?" Bo asked nervously. "You will have no choice but to remain here until the next summer solstice." Bo nodded his head slowly. He would do everything he could to find all 3 objects before the sun set on the summer solstice. As much as he was curious about what it would be like to live in the fairy realm for a year, he was eager to return home. "Okay, let me guess." He looked over at Thea. "Time to go find the glowing crystal?" "You've got it," Thea replied. To be continued.